everyone. Once again, my name is Avkash, and in this unscripted engineering video, let's utilize the PyCharm or the Python IDE made by JetBrains named PyCharm and using it with the tools which we have already talked earlier, such as command line tools, your GitHub repo, as well as the Visual Studio Code. So combining all of these together, you are going to make yourself a much better and a much productive software engineer. So let's get ourselves started.
We are going to use the JetBrains PyCharm for our main IDE for Python. So let's download it. This is the paid version. It's a 30 days free trial. Then you need to pay subscription fee, but I will use the community edition. So download is completed. This is the PyCharm. Let's see where it is. Install. Okay. It's about 2 gig file. And the environment for Python in our machine, we are using the Conda based Python. And so we will also learn that how various environment we will create for two separate projects. And using Conda, we will create those environment. Then we will use those two separate environment in two separate instances of PyCharm while using two separate desktops so that we can keep working simultaneously on multiple projects and still be effective and still compartmentalize all of our work while we are using different desktops. So there is a lot to learn in this session. So okay, a copy has been done. Let's remove this thing from the uh, because added as a disk drive. So we can say PyCharm. Okay, PyCharm. We are starting PyCharm very first time. It might take little extra time to configure itself. Okay, while it's being loaded, as you know that I'm working on the desktop 1. Later I will come back in desktop 2 and 3. PyCharm. If you want to know a lot more about it, so as you could see that it's really uh, it can support any of these environment, fast API, Flask. I last few years I'm totally writing fast API based Python applications. I no longer use any Flask, but if your requirement is to use the Flask, you can definitely use it. Okay, I don't want to send any of my testing data, and here you go, import setting. I could use escape. I don't really need to connect from anything. I can say other options, you know, available here, config to our installation directory. I could use which particular path I need to use, or I can just go ahead and cancel it. And there you go. It's so it tried to help you, but it was not a good help if you are engineer because you want to control everything. You can create a new project from here. You can open, means you can actually go and read a particular folder. So I will go ahead and I will come back and I will start a new instance of PyCharm here in this window. And let's come back here, PyCharm. You can actually say welcome here. Okay, options. Okay, so let me say PyCharm. Okay, this is PyCharm. Okay, let me come back, start again because I think I do PyCharm here. Let's start. Right now we are in desktop 2, and here we will connect, open, and let's see which particular project we have here. So in this window, we are working with public coding. So what we could do is that we could actually create a folder here, and one called the Python and one called the JavaScript. So in the public coding, what we can do is that we can actually create a new folder. It's called the Python, and we are in Python. We can say open it. Okay, trust project, and here we have is a cannot set up Python SDK. It's okay, no worries. There you go. So what we have done is that we have created project in a way that the same public coding has a Python folder for Python code, and we also can create a front end folder where we could keep the HTML and JavaScript code. So I can come here, terminal, I can say front end, and I can move sample to front end. So there you go. Now our code is more modular. Front end code, back end code. These, it shows that we have 8 changes pending to push. That's okay. Now we can close this, and if we want to edit that HTML file, we can come back here, and when we are doing the Python is here, but Python we will use here. So at this point, let's push this whole code. Okay, so I will say different folders commit always, and then once the commit is done, then you are syncing. Okay, don't show again. So now we just need to click 2 times and everything will be done. Once commit is done, we can look into here. So one of the important aspect of being an engineer is that know what you are doing and where you are. Mentally, you have to be available and present that which particular desktop you are working and what is happening in that desktop. It is very important. In my work, I have 8 desktops active, and I have to keep shuffling my brain which desktop I am and what I'm working. And my desktop's order is always fixed. So even after a year, I know that desktop number 4 for what, desktop number 6 is for what. That's how I could become more productive. Okay, so now we are here. So very first thing, what we see is that similar to Visual Studio Code terminal, the PyCharm also give you access to terminal. So here is your terminal, and as you could see that it's using the base Python, because here we can say which Python we are using, and it will tell you that is 3.12.4, which is coming out from Conda base, because you can also say which Python, and you can also say where it is coming from. So you can also say where, and this. So if there is a change, means the sometime you might see a difference here because the launcher is link file running somewhere. So which and where might have 2 separate paths. Very first requirement is that because this is a Python project, so we really need to make sure that we have a Python runtime available for us. So for that, as you know that we are using Conda, so we need to integrate the one of the Python environments. If you look into here, Conda env list, we have, so Conda is not available here, so we can say source dot g resource Conda is what. So this particular window was created before even we install the Conda, because we created 3 different desktops and then we added the 3 different terminal window. Then we installed the Conda in one of the desktop. So the synchronization was not happening. Everything you have to remember. Okay. Now we have the Conda. We can say Conda env list. Now we know that, oh, there is a Python 3.12 is available. Now we can choose this particular version of Conda to use with here. So we can say, okay, let's come back to folder view. So this is the GitHub view. Here the structure of our code, the open file, but we don't need here. So let's come back to folder, PyCharm, settings. And if you go there are so many settings, but if you go here, build, execution, and deployment, here is where you can actually go ahead and set the Python related requirement. If you go to project is your Python, here is your Python interpreter. So here you see that is trying to connect with Python 3.13. Now we can actually say that we need to add different interpreter. So if you see here, which particular interpreter we really need to use, we have to figure it out that how we can connect the Conda here. Okay. So try to redesign package. Okay, I'm just looking into add a local interpreter. So now you see here that when we say local interpreters, now we can say that we want to use the Conda here. Very important thing. So to remember, when we selected Conda, is trying to get the list of environment. And if you look into here, it actually trying to see, okay, no, you see here, there are two environment, Py312, which we have created in one of the uh, tutorial. So I will say I want to use the existing environment, or you can actually create a new environment here too. You can say I want to create an environment based on whatever version of Python I really needed, and it will create for you. But I say no, I just want to use an existing environment Py312. Okay, and if I come back here and I create a new environment, I want to reload it, you can say load environment is going to reload everything again. Okay, now it's loading the Py312 environment in this session of PyCharm. Now you see that interpreter Py312 is available, and this is the path is really has been taken. Here are the packages which are part of this one. So now at least we have connected with Py312, so at least we could use that for us to manage it with our environment. Okay, what happens? Package operation field is okay. We are not looking into. Now we just need to make sure that do we have the environment listed here. So if we say, okay, we are using Python environment, this is the place where I can say new runtime environment, which is based on Python, and I call it, of course, Py312, or I can remove it and I can replace, okay, this is using the Python 312. Whether it's I can use the script or I can use the module to run, we will learn a little more later, but this is basically using the script, and we can say whatever the script. So I can say, oh, the main, let's close it. Okay, working directory, always set it up. This is kind of very important. So you can say the working directory will be your work, and you have public coding Python. So this is your working directory. Once you set the working directory, now if you look into the script, it's going to look the file in the same folder. So you can say your main.py is the script where it's running. So script run on that one. Environment path, if you have environment file, you can say apply. So you have created this runtime, which is based on Conda 3.2 is there. Now if you go ahead and if you try to, you see, it's just loading the skeleton. One more thing while it's happening, I can show you one more thing. Here is there, go to settings and go to project structure. Here it knows that, okay, what are the files. If you would want to exclude the file, you can actually, like for example, if you have a folder which you do not want to include in the project, you can actually exclude it. So one example is, so for example, if you say here you have a folder called the new directory and you call the data folder. Okay, and then you also have a folder where you have the core. Okay, and in the core you actually have a Python file. So for example, you can say core.py. Okay, you can connect here, because say it's gonna connect with your GitHub. Okay, now we can come back here, look into the structure, settings, structure, everything is here. You can say that this is all, you see, it's all path, everything is here. You can say, no, data is excluded. So while in the project, use this core, but don't use the data. Apply. So now you see here that this way you will know that data is not part of project. If even it's there, but it's not part of your project. And here is your main. Now you can go ahead and run this debugger. Click here. It's running. Debugger already kicked in and it hit the breakpoint. We can say go ahead and run. It say hi PyCharm. That was the message here and everything. So debugger is working with this environment. You can run it here and it ran. Yes. So we use a Conda created environment and we connected with our PyCharm and we could debug it and we could run it. Okay, so here are the 3 changes. We can actually say, okay, let's commit. Okay, added new code, commit. Okay, changes, everything okay. Now we can look into here. So this, if we want to create a PR, then we can use this particular setting to create PR, which I'm not really covering right now. I'm just gonna go look into here. So we have committed. Now we can go back, look at the server and see is the change, are the changes updated. We can go public coding, reload. As you see the Python, okay, and Python code has been okay, but now we need to make sure that this particular idea folder should not be part of our push. So the best way what you could do is that is you come back here. Now you can use the command line everywhere. You could come here and you can say in this project, what you are doing is that you are adding so you can say touch dot git ignore. Git ignore is gonna show up here in the root. This is your git ignore. Okay, and that is actually part of Python. So we need to go move. So move dot git ignore to one more level back. So git ignore is not gonna be here. It's gonna go back to. So it will not be part of this project. That's better because that's where we want it to be. Let's come back here. We can actually add it here too. You see, and then we can say ls dash la git ignore is here. We can do git ignore and we can edit it here, but we don't want to edit because it's kind of small screen. So we can come back here, public coding, la git ignore is here, vi git ignore, and that's what we want to actually ignore it. If you check into here, cd work public coding, and what you want to do is that you want to say in Python, if you say these are the files, say you can say dash la. So what you want to do is that you want to have the dot idea should not be added here. So you can say in the Python folder dot idea should not be added. So you can say git ignore. So you want to say in the Python folder dot idea should not be added. Let's come back here. Status, we also say that, oh, we don't want any .ds store file. Okay, so let's come back here. Okay, okay, now if you come here you can say git status. So we can say git add, we manually say just add only one file, git ignore, git commit. Okay, status. And now what happens is that whenever now we need to make sure that this particular, the idea, we need to make sure that idea next time is not going to push. So we need to remove the idea folder completely, and then when we push it, this .idea folder will not be pushed. So git ignore is going to protect us. Okay, so that's those are the things you need to. And so you remove the git locally idea, and then you repush all the code, and then after that subsequently it should not really push the .idea because you have added in git ignore. So that's how we could connect it, uh, PyCharm with any existing repo, and very quickly we could work on it. Now I can use the same PyCharm to work with third desktop. So the way you do is that you can go to PyCharm and file, you can actually say the open. You can say open, and in the open window, you actually select a different, you say you want to use private coding. And in the private coding, you open it, it will say, do you trust it? You say trust it, and it's actually going to open in a new window. This window is not. So you need to be very careful. I don't really use this don't ask again. I want this because this is how I really work. So I never check this one, and I can say, no, open everything in a new window. And once I have this new window, I can use these so like these three fingers to go to desktop mode, and I can say I want to move this to here. And once you are here, you can open the code, and now you have access to private coding. And private coding, this is the project we have. And if you would want to write the folders, I can add new folders here. So I can, because this is, we dedicate this whole for Python coding. So I can say one of the folder I have core, and one of the folder I have here is the API. And oh no, let's move this to root, refactor. Okay, and you see the IDE project setting is added already, always added, view files. I don't ask again, we are not, because we can look into here. As you could see here that the git is already being active. It could read it here. I can also come back and I can add a new Python file, app.py. Yes, and it will be our, okay, so I can say print hello world. Okay, so we need to use again, we need to import God. Oh, that's okay. So this is the app.py. We haven't really integrated this whole thing in the Python environment. And as soon as we connect this whole thing in a Python environment, so what we will do is that we will create a new environment here, and we will use that new environment. So let me go back to command line. Let me use a tab here. So we have two tabs here, one tab, second tab. I'm gonna go here and I will say Conda. And if you see here, I can really look into previous Conda related command. So I can say I need to create a new environment called the dev. Okay, Python 3.12 dev, and still we will use Python 3.12 because that's our main. Okay, environment is created. It's going to take few minutes to create, and then we will use this environment in our this Python project. Okay, so Conda Py 3.1.12 is available. Let's come back here, PyCharm settings. Here is your build related settings, and here is your interpreter settings. So we can 3.12 is there. Okay, and we need to reload it. So we need to say add interpreter local, go to Conda. Let's load here 3.12 dev. This is our environment. apply. Okay, no worries. Now you see here that print error is gone, because once we tell that, hey, we need, this is the Python environment we are using, that's why print has been resolved, because it's one of the base function. Okay, I think now we need to set up the configuration. We can come here, we can create a new configuration. It's called Python. We name it Python 312 dev. This is 312 dev we are using. First, we set the working directory, private coding. Then a script can come here. App.py. In one of the tutorial, you will see that when we are using fast API, we are going to use the module uvcorn to launch, and it will be the command line. So right now we are using a script just for the completeness. Okay, let's apply it. And this is our 312 dev. And now we can debug it, but there is no debug breakpoints. It's going to run without any problem. We can run it, and it's running. Now we also have the terminal available. One thing to remember now is that here you could see that we are using Py312 dev in the terminal. If we go back to second environment, you will see that in the terminal we are using the base, but after we have added the Py312, if I will exit here and I reload it, you will see our Py312 environment is used here, and Py312 dev is environment used there. So those concept in your mind, you have to wire in very effectively, that which environment you are working, what kind of work is associated in that particular environment. Here you see that our whole project is private coding, is all a Python project, versus there our environment is actually a combination of front end and back end code. So our environment is a collection of two separate code streams. One Python folder reads the Python, and the front end folder, let me go back here one level back. So Python for Python, and the front end is being written here. So we need to, you see, front end. And now what you could do is that you could actually change this environment. Rather than using the public coding, you can go ahead, and what you do is that you can say close the window. Okay, you open a new window here. So go to file, go to new window, and take this new window and move to here. And here, rather than opening the public coding, go to open, and say in the public coding, I'm only gonna stick with front end. You don't need to worry about it, because this thing is still connected. So now you see here, because of that, now your repo connectivity gone, because the way you have set this whole environment is that your code was on public coding, but your code is from front end. That's why your Git is not able to understand it. So now you say that I need to open the repo. So you can say actually repo is available in public coding. So now there you go. So you can still use this code stream, but your repo is basically maintained through here. So you can still use the GitHub related all the facility which Visual Studio Code gives you. But you need to remember everything, where the GitHub is coming, where the source code control I'm using, and where other applications such as uh, PyCharm is also managing the code within the same folder of the coding. So I think once you go step by step and do this thing a couple of times, I believe is that you will be, very effective using Visual Studio Code, PyCharm, GitHub, command line, terminal, all that thing together with a GitHub repo. GitHub is very important, because all the work you are doing, these machine can crash anytime. They can disappear, anything could happen. But if you push all of your code in GitHub, you never need to worry about. Set your machines, connect with your GitHub, all your life is back. And that's the beauty of having this kind of setup. Let's come back here. I would say in this session, I think we can recap it. It's that what we have covered, and then writing a Python code with more details and everything we can cover in next session. So quick recap. In this session, we have downloaded PyCharm. We use PyCharm with various repo. I showed you the terminal. I also showed you the how to connect with interpreter, which is Conda. You can use the virtual env or other environment, whatever you do, but Conda is my choice because I'm using so long, so I'm sticking with it. And once you have PyCharm run available on a different desktop, as you could see that we could actually connect the two different version of environments, and these environment could have a different packaging install. Like you can go and you can install a certain package in Py 312 dev, which is not available in your Py 312. So and I also showed you that how you can really work in a one single repo with two separate tools, PyCharm and Visual Studio Code for two different kind of coding, while you can still have ability to push the code either through Visual Studio Code, through your Python environment, PyCharm, or through the command line, all while you can still have access to terminal. So that's all in this one, and we will carry on our study in the next one.
So I hope that after watching this video, you are a better and more productive software engineer. Thanks for your time and keep enjoy watching this video. Thank you.